Hey guys, Tommy Carrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. Dale's been on here a zillion times. Everybody knows Dale, and you can go to the description. You can buy his books. You can follow him on socials, all that good stuff. And he's been on here probably more than any other guest. But I haven't actually, other than text, I haven't spoken to Tarek before this. So, Tarek, could you please? I don't even know if I'm saying your name right. Could you please introduce yourself and kind of take it away in whatever direction you want?
It's Tarek, but
Tarek, all right,
everyone
yeah,
butchers it, man. Yeah, everyone butchers it, so
yeah.
everyone calls me Joey.
All right, that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so much easier.
It started in the army. They said we don't know how to say your name. You look kind of Italian, so we're gonna go with Joey. It stuck with me ever since,
Fair
man.
enough. Fair enough. Um, but yeah, because so Dale put us in touch to do a podcast, and could you maybe talk about your background and what you're doing now?
Where do I start? Let's see. So I'm originally Palestinian Lebanese. But I was born and raised in UAE, United Arab Emirates. Lived there for the first 13 years of my life. My dad worked in oil and gas, and we ended up moving to Houston, Texas. That's where I went to high school, college, all that good stuff. I enlisted in the U.S. Army at 18 as an interpreter. Got in a little bit of trouble in the Army, and when I got out, went straight into contracting because I had already acquired those skills and figured I could make triple as much money. And that's where it all really started for me, man. I was young, 20 years old, contracting as an interpreter overseas. I'm fluent in Arabic, and the advantage I had was I spoke all dialects,
Yeah.
so I could change my dialect. It's it's been a wild run, man. I'm better at answering questions
Oh
than
yeah, no.
really
Well,
talking about myself, you know
sorry,
what I
no.
mean?
Dale knows. I just make it up. I've been doing it for 5 years. People are like, "What are we talking about today?" I'm like, "I don't know." And I just start recording. And I'm like, I have as little of an idea as you have. I have no idea what I'm doing every single day.
Well,
Yeah, Dale, how'd you get to know him?
yeah, so let me just kind of throw, yeah, kind of give us a little direction here. So I met Joey, same thing, few years ago, man. Actually was during COVID. Basically, I put out a solicitation. I was looking for guys to go to work in San Francisco. There was a gig there. It was crazy, but basically, I won't name the store, but it was a huge department store.
I remember that you were sending me videos.
Yeah, they were getting ripped off all day long, man. I mean, it was crazy what was going on there. The craziest part was they wanted security, but they didn't want security that actually worked. They wanted security to stand around like scarecrows. Well, I didn't know that when I first signed on, but they were paying a lot of money just to stand around look scary. And the reason they didn't want you to do anything was because they were actually making money when people were stealing stuff. Which I remember on one particular day, there was about 75 shoplifting incidents just on one day alone. And so what they do is they try to capture or record how much stuff was recorded. They don't even try to stop them from stealing. They let them steal it, just record how much they stole, and then they submit it to the insurance company, and then they get their money back, and that's all relative, like how much was actually stolen, right? And so they never lost money.
So
And
dirty.
and the way they justified it was like, look, we got this Delta Force operator guy standing here, and he couldn't even stop him. They left out the
I
part like they
yeah,
let me stop him. I
I
damn sure
remember
tried.
I remember when you were doing that. Sorry to interrupt. I remember when you were doing that and you were like sending me videos and I texted my buddy Joe and he was like, "Dude, some crackhead's gonna go steal a sweatshirt and get dunced by a black ops operator in Nods with a $300,000 carbine." Like,
It was insane. But anyways, so I was, again, I was asked if I could find some guys to augment as well, right? Because, so anyways, long story short, I put a solicitation out and Joey saw it, responded, and that's how I got to know Joey. I brought him on board and he got to indulge in the shit show with me. And I got to tell you, it was pretty entertaining. Just standing there all day. Oh yeah, you weren't allowed to sit down because somewhere in the contract, it was not allowed as we were not allowed to. So we had to stand on our feet for 12 hours a day, literally with armor on, and in the front lobby where people came in. Now you usually had a PDF, or sorry, PDF, a San Francisco Police Department officer with us, and he made double the money we made, which was a lot of damn money per
Yeah,
day, and
yeah.
he got to sit down. Right. And he didn't even get to do anything, nor would he do anything. He'd look at me and go, you handle it. I'll deputize you because he didn't want to get in trouble and lose the gig. Right. So cops didn't want to do nothing in San Francisco. Because it wasn't worth it. But that's how I got to know Joey. The reason I recommended having Joe on the show because I know a little bit about his background, but what I found interesting was his work in the area of I guess child trafficking. Not he's the child trafficker, but he worked in that area of basically counter trafficking. So without me going in, I'm gonna have him tell us the
Yeah.
background he did and his involvement and sounds. I think it's gonna be might be a pretty sad story, but it's gonna be kind of eye-opening. So go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
Joey.
I was gonna say no. That's one of the things I've always kind of given carte blanche to for my show is, be it Baz, who's in Dale's line of work, and his thing with ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children, Christy Wells and Safe House Project, Lee Dundas. I don't remember which one hers is, but I've had on. That's kind of one thing where pretty much, not pretty much, I'd say across the board. If somebody ever puts me in touch, or they contact me, I'm a green light. Yeah, come on. I really can't imagine like a more pure endeavor than that. And so I'm always happy to have anyone come on my show as many times as they want to talk about it, because I mean, how can I not? So yeah, Joey, take it away, man.
So actually, that follows where I stopped off. I said I went into contracting, and when I came back home, I became a police officer in Houston, and law enforcement wasn't challenging enough for me. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I kind of fell into the counter child trafficking stuff. I ended up leaving Texas and moving to Vegas, and I joined CPS as a child abuse investigator. Did that for a year, and it opened my eyes to a lot. However, I felt like it was the capacity of a social worker, and I wasn't doing enough, if it makes sense. And at the time, this was in 2021. I want to say, yeah, 2021. There was a OGA firm called MVM. Some people know about it, some people don't. Depends on what kind of work you've done, right? They operated a lot overseas. There's a CIA contracting firm, but they were doing state site work, and they were looking for a site supervisor for a black site that had like 1,500 trafficked children. I won't say the name of the city, but it was here in the States on the border city. And the site supervisor that they wanted had to have like, a similar background of mine, basically, with a college degree, all that stuff. And I was like, I'm probably competing against guys that like worked for Department of State for like 20 years and shit. And at the time, I was only like 27 years old, 20, you know what I mean? So I was still young. I applied for it, and the description was very vague. It said you were going to be responsible for overseeing security specialists that were going to be transporting, and protecting these trafficked kids. It didn't say the word trafficking, though. It said children. Unaccompanied minors is what they used. So I knew like the gist of it, right? Anyway, so I applied for it, and I interviewed, and the guy who was directing the operation was actually a retired DEA special agent who was responsible for the Houston division where I was from. And from my time in law enforcement, I knew him. Like I knew of him, he knew of me, right? And he hired me, and next thing you know, I was on a plane within like 24 hours to that city. And I was in shock. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've never operated like at a site supervisor level for something massive like this. Especially 1,500 kids. Like, that's a big op. And it was during the summer. I went there. There was three other site supervisors with me. The whole thing was like dodgy, but they put us in a nice hotel, Marriott. So I was like, all right, this is like probably pretty legit. It's coming from the government's budget, right? The other guys I was working with, one was like retired DEA. They were like, I'm not gonna say like way better than me, but more experienced than me. One of them was retired DEA, one was retired DOS, and the third was retired CIA. So those guys obviously had way more time doing Black Ops than me, right? The closest I've ever done Black Ops overseas was being an interpreter and a little bit of interrogation, for different
Yeah.
agencies, but never like actually supervised a group of people for doing that kind of stuff. So, to make a long story short, I did very well. I had to like hit the ground running. Basically, I had like 100 agents under me. That's what I call them, agents. They're contractors, most of them ex-military, and they had these agents transporting these kids all around the country and overseas as well to vetted families that were going to foster them. Most of them were trafficked, so they weren't going to send them back to the countries that they were coming from. And it wasn't only South America. It was crazy. Like some of these kids were like from India and Ukraine and Russia. But it majorly like affected me and I enjoyed doing it, man. It was a 24/7 op. I barely got any sleep and we ran for 3 months straight. And I ended up at the end of it all, a lot happened, but at the end of it all, we were successful. And I was actually a main part in it because the client, the US government, was very impressed with how I did it, and they actually used me as a liaison out of the four-site supervisor. So I was actually there on site while the guys were handing all the agents and the kids, but I got to see everything behind the scenes. Worked with a lot of staff from the White House, got recognized for it. It was crazy though, man. We were like in unmarked white vans stateside transporting these kids, renting entire like charter planes,
Yeah.
unmarked charter planes, and putting these kids on them, and they would all go to like different countries and stuff. Uh, didn't fly commercial, all that stuff, like just exactly how we do it overseas, except there was kids involved. But yeah, that's where it really started for me, and then I started contracting for ICE from there after
Uh-huh.
that. DHS, there was a lot of trafficked kids across the border. And I started first as a security specialist contracting with them. And then most recently, I was an intelligence officer. And I really enjoyed that because that was like my bread and butter with DOD. And, in the past, contracting, my background was like mainly intel, really. But it was very interesting to actually get to interview the traffickers on why they do it and all that stuff. I got
Whoa.
to interview some pretty gnarly people from the cartel in Texas. And then recently, the most recent contract, and I'm actually active on it right now. I'm in Australia, but I'm not working on that right now. But I'm still active on that contract. I can't go into too many details because I signed an NDA. But basically, the governor of Texas signed an executive order to fight child trafficking because it was a big problem. We're right on the
Sure.
border. It's a huge problem in Texas, huge problem. Executive order basically deputizing contractors like me to be 24/7 bodyguards for trafficked kids until they found like foster families to take them in. Similar to what I did with MVM, but this is like one on one. Once again, like I wouldn't say black ops, but like even local law enforcement isn't aware of this operation.
Whoa.
We have them housed like in undisclosed locations, and we're with them 24/7. We rotate, and we're basically with the kid. Like we're like their not their guardian. We have social workers with us, but we're there like no matter what happens. And some of the stories, man, like working one on one with these kids, like just getting to see what they go through and stuff, uh, really makes me glad I got into this because I have a special, thing for children that have gone through that kind of stuff. So
Absolutely.
I was thinking, though, if you guys want to
Yeah.
jump,
Give me 1 second. I gotta turn off the air conditioner.
well, no,
But so you do something like that, just so I could say Dale's probably one of them, or there's always the low hanging fruit. You see somebody in better shape than you, steroids, and it's like regardless, you still got to do work, right? You see the guy with
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
money, you're like, you capitalist pig. Not me, I'm not a loser, but like you look at it, I go, well, he probably worked his. I would imagine he worked his ass off. The kind of the low hanging fruit thing, right? And it's because there's some truth in it, but from one side you can spit on everything the DoD does. You can be kind of a self-righteous hippie. It's all evil. It's all killing and death. Then you have on people like Dale or like Don from Artillery up to Delta Force, and it's like Yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like the world isn't an American suburb. The world does the
Yeah,
universal
yeah,
language is violence. It's just what it is. You have to be dialed up. We saw just 4 years of like not having an overwhelming American hegemon.
yeah,
I mean, no one would ever have the balls to shoot at an aircraft carrier like they were last summer, right? So there's a lot of legitimacy to that. Now, is there problems? Are there crime? Sure, in everything there is. But when you have on someone like Dale that tell you like you really don't know what the you're talking about. So for me, right, the low hanging fruit is it's the U.S. government's in on it. They're doing it. They're the one trafficking it. They're behind all of it. You're looking at this and you're from your first hand experience. You're like, yeah, this wasn't this wasn't just like for funsies. Like they put money
yeah,
and resources
yeah.
to doing this. So from your experience, you can objectively say like, no, I've seen legitimate good come out of this. So where does that fall for you? Do you look at it and you go, no, there is good going on? Does that influence all of your opinions on it? Do you go, maybe there are some siloed factions that are taking part in it and they should burn in hell? Is it, how does that shape your mind on it?
So from doing it, honestly, from doing it the last 5 years, and I like being straightforward and honest about this kind of stuff,
Yeah,
right? Uh, I'm not an anti-government guy, right? However, I will say this: for it to occur for as long as it has, and for the number of kids that have been trafficked, there has to be some of our
complicity.
government counterparts, yes, complicit in it, 100%, man. I mean, the kids I've dealt with, I'm talking about thousands, and that's just me.
Yeah,
Those are the ones that get caught, right?
yeah,
What about all the ones that don't get? There's like I saw the figure. It was like around 300,000 missing kids since the Biden administration.
yeah,
And I don't want to be too political, but I worked both under Trump and Biden. And under Biden, it was a shit show, man.
yeah,
Like traffic was a huge problem, huge. And
yeah,
under Trump, I believe there's more good being done. And I'm not taking sides, but
sure.
just me saying from my firsthand experience, there's more good being done. He is taking the fight to the cartel. He is saving more kids. He's allowing us more capability uh, as far as like what we can and cannot do. Under Biden, we weren't allowed to like shoot if one of these guys came to get because a lot of the cartel will come back, find out what hotel the kids are staying in, right? Or what locations they're staying in, and try to take them back because you're taking a lot of money from them.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, depending on their characteristics, it's sick, but there's an actual menu that I've seen firsthand of a list. It's like, you go to a restaurant and it tells you the price and what you're ordering. There's a menu that I've seen firsthand of the prices for different
What
children.
if
Yeah.
I've had other people on truly like over the years from different human trafficking organizations who've said similar things, and
Yeah, it's sick, dude.
no, it's beyond and but therefore anyone doing anything to oppose it is it's all if you can't if you say I have one lifeboat, yeah, but if it's Titanic, you're like, yeah, no one's complaining about that singular lifeboat. They are grateful
yeah,
for so
yeah,
that's how I look at like complicity and stuff. It's if you look at if you look at how quickly Trump sealed up the southern border, I mean literally sending the Marines and like Chinooks, you then go, well, so it was possible, you didn't want it. When you look at how quickly and how powerfully and the duration of using the FBI to hunt down January 6th protesters, you go, well, you can find things. You absolutely could have found out who was funding the BLM riots.
yeah,
You go, you could,
yeah,
when G visits San Francisco or LA and they clean it up, get rid of all the homeless, you go, so you can
yeah,
do this. So the thing is like, they can do it. And I think when people say the
yeah,
US government's incompetence, I don't doubt there is. But I always push back on that and I go, that you're being far too kind to them. It's complicity. And so if you have something making that much money, and hey, if you can, don't even look at it as you're moving kids across the southern border. If you're moving items that cartels are using for money, if it's a kid, it could also be a backpack of enriched plutonium. So regardless of what it is, if you're allowing that permissibility, then you're complicit. If it's an AK
Yeah.
or if it's a kid or if it's a banana, you're allowing that to happen. And then you come back and you're looking at it and okay, but it's clearly not everything. So is that just more of like the meta nature of government? Like, yeah, it's not a monolith. It's a massive multi-trillion-dollar corporation, and there are pieces of shit, and then you also have guys that are doing the Lord's work, and you can't write them all off as one or another.
You know what sucks, man, is I'll just say this, right? Why do you think they're being, I want to get y'all's opinion. Why do y'all think they're being trafficked here?
Because we're the biggest
Why?
client. There's supply
Exactly.
and
And a lot of,
demand. Yeah.
yes.
Why are all the cartels right on the southern border? I don't know. Probably because they're making a lot of money. You don't go. DoorDash doesn't deliver to neighborhoods where no one eats fast food. DoorDash comes by because there's fat like me who want McDonald's at 4 a.m. Yeah. Why do you think it's there? Do you think they're just showing up? It's not a 1500 BC bazaar where they're like swinging around meats and Persian rugs. It's like they're evil, but they're not stupid. They know what
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've actually operated also on the other side of the border down in Guadalajara. And man, if you try to traffic one of their kids, the whole town riots.
Is what it should be.
It's but here no one bats an eye, man. It's bad. It's bad. Unless there are people actively pursuing it, of course. But the regular average person will be like, hey, I'm gonna look the other way. Like it's crazy,
What?
dude. Some of these kids would tell me, like, hey, would tell people at Walmart while we were with the traffickers, please help us, we're being trafficked. And they say, sorry, kid, we don't want nothing to do with it.
That
They're afraid of the cartel. That's one thing, man. Like I've worked against terrorists and all that shit, but the cartel is different than any other kind of people I've ever worked against.
yeah,
It's a different
no,
bro.
I don't doubt that at all, and I don't doubt that the threat and the deterrence is very real. But
And,
I think
and
there's just certain. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I think fear is the main culprit here, right? They post all these videos and all that propaganda shit, and they fuel the fear of Americans, and that's why a lot of people we know it's a problem, but do we really want to get involved? I mean, dude, like about a month ago, my fiance was visiting me in Texas, right? I'm getting off a shift after protecting a kid, and a SUV, gold Escalade SUV, older version, pulls up next to me at a light. I'm just giving you an example. And it was the cartel. They roll up their windows. This is like at 6:30 in the morning. One street before my apartment. They roll down their window. They look at me. I'm like, all right, this is it for me. I have my
Yeah,
hand on my weapon. Hey, we're just letting you know we know where you live. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, if I react, I'm gonna end up dead. There's like four
yeah,
armed guys. I'm sure they had, but that's just an example of like how deep they are, man. Their intel is like as good as ours.
of course. It's a
They're
wealth.
very organized. They're
It's
very organized. For them to traffic that many kids and drugs into the country, you can't be stupid. Put it that way. The ones that get caught are actually like with the lows. You see these guys with the 18 wheelers and shit. Cartel members have told me that I've interviewed, right, while I was working for ICE, have told me that they're usually distractions for the bigger loads passing.
why wouldn't you? No, it's the
Yeah,
right move. It's evil, but I mean,
yeah,
no. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, I guess and I can only speak for me, and it's easy because I don't have a wife and kids, so I get how that arithmetic changes. But I guess for me, there's like levels of, if they roll up and they're like, Tommy, we know where you are because I'm going on some campaign on my podcast about how cocaine's bad. Eventually, I have to go. I had friends in college who did coke, and no one ever put a gun to their head. And you know what? Maybe it does kill people, but they're all adults. And if the cartel's threatening to kill my parents, how much do I really care if other shitheads my age are doing cocaine? Not at all. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, off. I don't care. There's just I don't know. There's just a level of when it comes to kids. I think there's just I think you have to ask yourself like, man, am I okay with this? If somebody comes up to you at the Walmart and goes, they're trafficking cocaine, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not trying to get shot in the face.
yeah,
But if it's
yeah.
a kid, I mean, at a certain point, you do have to ask yourself, and if you fear the cartels, I mean, then you have to start asking yourself, like, you know, how certain are you that there is no God? How certain are you? Are you 100%? No, I'm pretty sure I'm an atheist. Are you 100%? Well, what's on the other side? I mean, is there eternal life? Is there reincarnation? Do you reincarnate as one of the kids? So you go, well, what about all that? Maybe there's real deterrence. Maybe there's deterrence that makes the cartels look like Boy Scouts. Maybe hell is real. And then you go, none of that's real. Okay, sure. What about then in this life? Let's just say it starts with birth and ends, and there is no God, and it goes lights out at the end. Okay, fine. How much longer can you live your life every night? How many more showers by yourself at night, just scrubbing? Do you think like, man, there's some 8-year old being gang raped, and I could have said something? How long until you put a gun in your mouth? I mean, but seriously. So like, I guess that's where I look at it is if somebody's like, we're gonna kill you if you keep talking bad about fast food. Like, all right, RFK, weird hill to die on, but go for it, brother. Like, but if it comes to like kids. I mean, I just going out of the gym earlier in my building, just this little like 2 foot tall kids just babble and walking. And it's just like it really is just like the manifestation of God. It's just this little innocent. They don't know
Yeah.
how to hold grudge. They're smiling, and you're like, and I guess I also look at it like I'm 34. I've had a wonderful life, a blessed life, nuclear family, parents that are still married, went to private school, and it's also like if it's rolling up on my doorstep to where the universe, God, whatever, has put this thing like, hey, these kids are being trafficked. Will you call the cops? It's like this is now on me, and I've lived a great life. And if this is some karma that I now have to deal with this, well, I'm an adult, and then I've up my life, and now I'm here to make this decision. I don't know how you. I totally get looking the other way. If it's, I mean, you really gonna risk your life for somebody selling a dime bag of weed? No, I don't care. Traffic children, the mechanized, not a child, the mechanized, industrialized trafficking of children. I, I think for me, at a certain point, I would go, yeah, I have no illusion that they're not going to kill me, but I imagine I would probably kill myself. I don't know. I, I don't know. I don't know how you look the other way. I can look the other way on a lot of things. I can go, yeah, off.
You know,
Man, Dale.
Tommy, man, you're right. Joey, you said, people like, well, I can't help you. Little kids like, hey, help me. They're gonna do bad things to me. Help me. And that's just that. What does that say about humans, man? Um, I mean, we really are some horrible freaking creatures, man. At the end of the day, man. I mean, we're just nasty. I would rather have a dog. I like animals better than humans because m most people. Oh, they can be nice people, but at the end of the day, they have no soul, and people don't want to get involved. That's the other part, man. What's happened to humanity? Like right now, you look at what's going on. Everybody's pissing and moaning about, we got Elon Musk exposing all these people that are stealing money, all this corruption, all this bullshit. People are just mad about that, and and they're going out and burning Teslas, but nobody's talking about, you know, these children, man, that are being trafficked. Nobody's talking about it. That's why I thought it'd be kind of cool to get
Yeah,
Joey on here to talk about it because, man, there should be more discussions like this. It's like that's something like you would think that all of us, regardless of our political background or religious beliefs as humans and as adults, we would rally together and go, hey, we got to protect, man, kids. That's when you can't protect your own kids and you don't care, you don't even want to be involved in that because you got more important things to do, like go to work every day. And, that says a lot about a person, man. I'm like you, Tommy, I will kill a man if I catch you molesting a child. If I catch you molesting, I will kill you, man, right there on
point
the spot.
blank, point
I don't
blank.
care. I'll say that right now. I have no problem with that. There's a limit to, what I will tolerate. And that is just that. Look, man, think about if you have children, as I do, and I think about my kids, and I'm like, what if something like that happened to one of my kids, like my youngest one, right? It's like, damn, I just can imagine, I'm so afraid something's going to happen. Somebody's going to kidnap her. And then what they got to do to after that, and that's just, that's a horrible feeling. And you shouldn't have to feel like that. I mean, growing up, when I grew up, man, we used to run around the street late at night, and didn't have to have adult supervision. You didn't have to worry about crap like this. And now we're in a world where, it's not just recent either, man. This has been going on for a while, but we live in a world now where you got to keep your eye on your kids, get them in before the lights, come on the street. And well, it's crazy, man. I mean, it's a very feral and rogue and dangerous world we live in. And these kids, and you mentioned 300,000. Yeah, it's over 300,000 kids just in this Biden administration. How's
Yeah.
that sleep at night, knowing this guy and his family, by the way, all of them, every one of them, they're all complicit. They didn't say a
Yeah.
goddamn thing, and they
Yeah.
know what's going on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how do they sleep knowing that there are children out there dead, mutilated, molested, went through hell, going through hell, and they did it for what purpose, to what end, for what end, and that's what really amazes me. And then you've got all the supporters out there that support these evil son of a bitches, and they don't care, man. And it's I mean, I got some personal, not my personal experience, not personally happened to me, but family members have been down this road, and it's not a good thing, man. It's not. It's one of the worst things that can happen to anybody, man. And but I was kind of curious. You did answer one question earlier, Joey. My question was why were you securing the kids? What was the concern? Now you told me, and I kind of figured as much that these savages were going to come back and get these kids because they're nothing but
Yeah.
money. So
Yeah.
they want their money. That makes a lot of sense now. And then my other question was, you said you interviewed guys, traffickers, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure you asked them why you doing it. What were some of the answers they gave? What was their response?
So most of them, I usually ask like, "Hey, do you have kids?" And they'll be like, "Yeah." And I'd usually reverse it on them and be like, "Well, what if your kid got trafficked?" And a lot of them were like, "Well, it's life." It's like I don't know if it's a cultural thing, and it's not only Mexico. It happens a lot in South America, but they have like this way of thinking of where like whatever makes money, first it was drugs, but now kids, you can make more money off of the children. It's the number one profitable business right now for the cartel, by the way. It's no longer drug trafficking.
Yeah,
Drug
no,
trafficking is number two. Number
yeah.
one is child trafficking. Each
Oh,
kid on average costs 20 to 50,000 US dollars. If you're talking about a blue-eyed young blonde girl, you're looking at like 100K, man.
Jesus. Yeah,
And kids, unfortunately, are easier to traffic than drugs because they can go through an airport without anyone batting an eye. And it happens at airports a lot. It happens at hotels, big sporting events like the Super Bowl. All that shit is real, bro. All that shit is real. And the reason I got out of law enforcement was because there was a lot of red tape and I don't like it. And I consider myself a gray man and I like being a contractor because I don't give a fuck what the government says. If that kid comes to me and while I'm working and tells me someone tried to grab him, I'm gonna kill that guy. And there's no red tape on that. Our rules of engagement are different than police officers.
hell
It's
yeah.
very similar to what he was saying when we were at the store where SFD was sitting back and letting us handle shit. It's the same way with us. They tell us we can engage if the cartel come. And I've had encounters, but I didn't have to engage, but I have encounters with them in Texas coming up in the hotel lobby, man, to try and get the kid. And they usually assess the officer too. We're not all the same. We all have similar backgrounds. But I have some crazy stories where like they'd be in the parking lot cracking Coronas, bro. And I had two kids in custody, and they know who I am. I'm looking at them. They're looking at me. We're both sizing each other up. And I tell them, hey, look, I walk up right up to them. I know who you guys are, but I'm going to tell you right now. If you come up to that floor, you're all going to be dead. And I have balls, bro. I don't give up. It's just the way I am. To deal with ruthless, one thing I've learned from Dale, and I look up to Dale, dude. He's like my mentor, is you got to be ruthless yourself. There's no yes, please, or any of that shit when it comes to savages. You have to be a savage yourself. And they know if you're faking it or you're actually about it, dude.
and that's there's kind of like a bigger picture there, and like escalate to de-escalate. And so when you
Yeah.
can look at something like, let's take World War II, and like one of the bombing missions before D-Day, like the morning of, there was cloud cover, and they didn't hit the beaches, they hit a town, and it's just that happens. None of them are like
Yeah.
none of them are jerking off to it. They're like, that happens. I mean, when Curtis LeMay led the bombing raids in Japan, he said after the war, he's the one that led Strategic Air Command, was if you're going to use violence, use an excessive amount of violence, use way more violence than needed, kill excess civilians, because in the end, that will save more people on both sides when the war
Hmm.
ends. So you could look at something like that and go, well, how do you sleep at night? And be like, that's a world war. And you're going, do we want 500 million people die, or do we want to limit it to 85 million people? You go, yeah, it's probably hard to sleep at night, but you had to make some shitty choices. I get that, to where that's hard. I understand that that's where a lot of PTSD comes from. Okay. And then you also have, you know, but at what point do you accept that as a level of war, or where do you have a red line? And I get looking at it like, this is war. Civilians die in war. It's But you can't keep writing it off as this is, because at a certain point you have to draw a
Yeah.
line and
Yeah.
go, well, what are we gaining if the thing we're sacrificing is the innocence of children? And you have to have a line. You can go, I'm not getting in a fight with every crazy person on the street. I mean, you walk by someone, they have $5, you go, no, and they go, fuck you. Like, you don't turn around and have a standoff. I'm like, dude, I'm going back to my apartment. If somebody tries to kick down my apartment door, I'm going to shoot him in the face. You have to have parameters to where you go, we're not retreating farther. I get that shit happens in war. I get that, people make money and there's grift. I understand that it's not good, but it's what happens in any organization. But you have to have a red line to where you go, we're not doing that. We're not doing this. Bombing campaigns, they suck. They happen. We're not sacrificing children. You have to have that, because if not, and then you really start to get into some, like, biblical ideas of, is that a nation worth saving? If you can go up to somebody in Walmart and go, being trafficking, yeah, I don't want any part of this. Is that a society that's worth saving? And I would have to say no. It's because if you don't have that final line that you're not willing to go past, then you have no line, and it means the entire thing can be pushed over. And it's, if you can't bring and so, well, why do you do it? Well, it's how the world works. I had one of the early. I know I'm ranting. One of the earliest episodes I did was with a guy from Sayeret Matkal, the Israeli Special Forces, and I asked
Yeah.
him, and I was like, man, like, how do you feel about, Dunson guys in Hezbollah or Hamas? And he was saying how they captured one and they're like interrogating him, and he was like, honestly, man, I feel bad for him. And I was like, what? And he's like, here's a guy, he's never seen running water. He doesn't know what a phone is. He makes, what, $1 a year. And then somebody comes up to him and goes, I'll give you $500 if you shoot this RPG at that American convoy. If you die, you're out of this. You don't have to live in hell anymore. And if you make it, you're more money than your family's ever had. And a lot of times the guy goes, yeah, what other choice? He goes, I get that. And he goes, I also get that I have to kill that guy, because if I don't, he's going to do this. I get, like, that's how the world is. I really do. I understand, like, yeah, it's a dark
Yeah.
place. But there have to be final lines to where you go, not one step back. If you go past this point, like, we're detonating the nuke. And if it's not children, what is it? What is it? And the answer better not be, well, my own life. Because your own life is not worth anything. If you see a kid getting trafficked and go, yeah, well, it's how the world works, you deserve a bullet in your head. Like, that's no different than a cancerous cell. They go, we got to get rid of that early. If somebody goes, well, that's just how the world works, they deserve a 357 in their forehead.
You know what's up is that a lot of the social workers I work with have the exact mindset, and I blame the system for it to happen.
Jesus.
For the reason it happens at the speed that it happens, dude. It's because that's a fucked up mentality, especially when you have when I realized, like, humanity has really lost its cause. When I had a girl about like 2 months ago telling me the story about how her own mother from rich suburbia sold her into fucking trafficking into the cartel.
Yeah, I mean, you start
I'm
looking
like,
back at history and go, yeah, no, maybe it makes sense when a volcano detonates and you go, no, I think I get it. No, I get it. No, you turn from. I always look at that and be like, man, God's an asshole. And then I look at that and I go, there might have been a point, man. There might have. What do you do at that point but use a flamethrower?
yeah,
I don't.
Hey,
yeah,
Joey,
dude.
Joey, I got a question. So
Yeah,
from
sorry,
your
I'll shut up.
experience,
That's
no,
ranting.
from your experience, so a lot of kids are getting trafficked into America. Obviously, there's a big demand, right? So,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
people in America, our country, that they're craving kids. To what end? For what end? What are they, is it for sexual exploitation? Is it for harvesting organs? Is it because they can't adopt a kid, so they want to? What are the reasons they're doing it? Like, give me some reasons, man. Who are these people? Do we know?
So,
Like, particularly,
so without me getting a bullet to the back of my head, I'm not gonna say specific like names because that does happen, by the way. That's why like we sign these NDAs and shit. There's a huge risk with what I do. Like it's insane, man. Not only the cartel that I have to worry about, but the people buying the kids. Obviously, look at it this way, right? The kids are expensive. You're not buying a 8 ball. You're buying a child, right? So you're talking about like 50 to 100 grand, right? Who's got that kind of money floating around? What kind of people? I mean, that should answer judges, politicians, lawyers, chiefs of police. It's crazy, bro. And what do they use the kids for? I would say right at the top of the list, everything you mentioned. At the top of the list, it's definitely sex exploitation.
yeah,
Second, I would say like slavery, child slavery. For like they keep them in their houses, bro. I'll say this one story, okay? In Vegas, a well-known dentist had a kid locked up in the basement. The wife knew, his kids knew, and no one ever reported it. We got a random report from a neighbor, right? There was a kid crying. We went into this guy's basement, and that kid has been there for like years, dude. And it was the same thing. He bought him over the border. The guy's facing like not even life, man. It's the other problem is the sentencing for the. This is another huge problem, which is why I don't support a criminal justice system, right? Because I see it. The dad gets arrested, right? I'll give you an example for being complicit in trafficking of his child, and he gets like 5 to 10 years in prison. But the guy selling bricks of cocaine gets 20 to 30 years in prison. You see the problem with that picture? And a lot of
yeah.
them are like, all right, we'll do 5 years in prison with on good behavior and make 100 grand, couple 100 grand. And a lot of them are doing it every week. Just do the math. They're millionaires, dude, for trafficking kids. It's easy money. All you're doing is putting a kid, and a lot of them aren't like hidden. They're recruiting now American citizens with low profiles and clean records. It's no longer mules. Those are the old days. Now they hire Americans, right? That look normal, clean history, clean background to put these kids in with them. And they drive right across the border and no one questions it. And of
Now,
course, obviously, there's Border Patrol agents also complicit in it. It gets way deeper, man. FBI is always arresting. If you go on a DOJ website, they don't put it on the news, but it's always on a DOJ website. This person got arrested working for Border Patrol. This person got arrested for customs for being complicit, taking bribes from the cartel. These guys are so balls deep in our government that even the guys up top are getting paid. You can't tell me that the guys up top aren't getting paid because this problem would end tomorrow. If we really wanted to end it, we'd end it tomorrow, dude. Go in, blast in, shoot an entire accomplice the cartel, let them know who's the boss, send a message. You have to do it that way. Because you keep rescuing kids, but this is going to be a never-ending problem. So we handle things different.
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with a solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey, so Joey, these kids so you recover kids. So, you recover these kids. Do you try to get them back to their parents, or what do you do with them?
So the two agencies involved uh, are Health and Human Services and CPS, right? Federal level Health and Human Services, and then at state level CPS. And a lot of the times they'll take these kids into custody, right? And wait for parents or a family that wants to foster them. Now, if the kid is being trafficked by their family themselves, they're not going to go back to that family. If they have relatives, that's usually the second thing they look at. If they have relatives that they vet, their vetting, by the way, is bullshit. I'll go back to that. Their vetting is bullshit, because what happens a lot of the times is, okay, they have a cousin, Jose or whatever, in Chicago, Illinois. He's good. He's got a clean background. Let's send a kid over there, right? The kid goes back over there. I've had the same kid 3 times. What does that tell you? That the families that they're vetting is bullshit, because they're getting paid by the same people that the parents bought, right? The same people that are trafficking the kids are all involved. The whole family, bro. So our vetting system is, I mean, how many times are you going to get a child into custody, right? The only thing I can think of is that, given it, usually the last cause is putting the child in a foster group home. But those guys also in a foster group home are at a way higher risk than the other kids, because they know that they don't have a support system. The state doesn't give a fuck about them. Most of the kids I get are actually ones that are from foster group homes who run away and get trafficked and get caught and come back into the system. Most of them. Of course, it starts usually with them running away from their parents or their parents selling them. Those are the top 2 things. But yeah, the fostering system, man, for these kids, I think the success rate is fairly low. I'd say like 30 to 40%, which is horrible, because it's an endless cycle, man. Like, and then as adults, they're fine with being trafficked. They get so used to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
A lot of them, what they do, they're smart, bro. The cartel, dumb, bro. They're smart. They get these kids as soon as they get them hooked on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they get them addicted to drugs. You get a kid addicted at that young of an age, you can make the kid do whatever the fuck you want, bro. You can. I've seen some of these kids run away right to their traffickers while they're in my custody, man. Running right to the trafficker. It's okay. I want to go with him. I want to jump in the van. I really want coke or I really want heroin or whatever the fuck it is. And that's it.
It,
It's tough and it's sick, man. And
Hey,
they know what they're
Joe,
doing. They know what
Joe,
they're doing.
what about how many Americans? How many American kids are getting kidnapped and find themselves in the getting trafficked, and how many Americans are involved in trafficking American kids? So not just kids coming in from the border, but how much of this stuff's going on internally, you
I,
know?
I'd say like I'd say it's 50%. That's my estimate. So it's a huge percentage. You know
God damn.
why? It's a huge percentage because there has to be cooperation. It can't be all South American people fucking bringing in the kids and that's it. It doesn't end there. There's families here that take the kids in. They're called like stash houses, right? But what they're doing is instead of putting 20, 30 kids in the house and making it look it obvious, hey, we'll pay this American family 20 grand to keep this kid with them until we find a customer in the US. And American families are doing it. They're like, the average American family in the US, what do they make, man? It's not that much, honestly. Now the economy's so bad, most of them are struggling. They can use the extra 20, 30,000 or 40,000, bro, cash, and they'll keep the kid and take care of it and wine it and dine it and until a customer calls up. And it's happening every single day here in America, man. You'd be
What about
surprised, even like good neighborhoods. I'm not talking about shit. I'm not talking about like the hood. Good neighborhoods with kids. It's a business. The families are like working a 9 to 5. I'll make 20 grand every 2 weeks to keep a kid, and then he's gone. No one's gonna ask any questions. You keep the
what
kid in
about
the house.
what about Americans? How many Americans are trafficking their own children and or losing or having their children kidnapped internally for the same process? I mean, is there a significant amount? Not just American families harboring kids brought in that they're gonna
Uh-huh.
out,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
internally, how many people are involved in trafficking their own children and selling them, and or how many kids, American kids, are getting kidnapped and also being trafficked? Well, and so
So
domestically, what
so
kind of issues that?
I'd say when I first started 5 years ago, it was like at about 20 to 30%. However, after COVID, brother, COVID fucked the world up, and a lot of people left humanity when that shit happened. After COVID, that number rose, I want to say to like 40 to 50%,
Wow.
which is a lot. That's a lot of families, man. Like all
Yeah.
these missing kids that you see on the news, the Amber Alerts, most of that is trafficking.
Jesus.
Most of it. They don't talk about it on the news. They'll be like, "Oh, he ran away because he wanted to be with his friends," or Johnny got hooked on drugs, and now we don't know where he is. No, bro, you're saying 300,000 children. Just think about that number. And I'm not talking only about South American kids. Look at the numbers for here nationally. It's huge. Thousands of kids go missing every day, brother. American kids. And the FBI has no clue where the fuck they go. They're being trafficked 100%. A kid doesn't just go missing. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
small percentage of runaways,
Sure.
but the majority of kids that go missing in the US, I'd say 70 to 80% are involved somehow in trafficking. And a lot
What
of those American kids actually get trafficked overseas. They don't stay here. So they bring the South American kids here, and then the American kids get trafficked overseas. It's a cycle, bro.
what happens? What happens to a lot of these kids? I mean, how does it end for them? So I mean, they're gonna get older. Maybe if they're lucky, are they murdered, buried? Do they go on and just kind of assimilate back into society? Go, well, that happened to me, but nobody will believe. How's this end for these kids?
You want to know the grim? The answer to that question?
Isn't it's normally organ harvesting or suicide, isn't it?
And prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all, so I would say the outcome, 90% of it, which is very high, bro, is a grim outcome. Prison, suicide, like he said, it's huge. Suicide is huge among trafficked children. They never recover, bro. The
Yeah.
How
PTSD
can
at
you?
a young
How
age
can
like that,
you?
like we go to war and we get PTSD. Imagine 12 years old getting raped every day, like different people and being drugged up. What does that do to your brain by the time you're 18? You want to shoot yourself.
So that's another thing, though, is when people are complicit in this, you're killing that kid because
Yes, 100%.
that could eventually exits the terror of their own mind in the only way they can, and that is on the shoulders of anyone who's ever had a chance to move the needle a millionth of a percent. And it's, I mean, even like saying, families losing money and stuff, that's things where I look at like levels of like self-negotiation of, all right, so I don't know, dad starts selling heroin and some of it has fentanyl and that kills people. Is that good? No. But people with their own free will are buying the heroin, and you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Economies, there's a global bioweapon released and dad's doing his best. That's something where I look at and I go, ideally no, but at the same time, that's someone who's providing for their family, and hey, survival's dark. I just, you have to, like, there has to be a point to where you go, I would rather starve on the street than do that. And it's with everything, even it's, a bombing campaign or a nuke, you always have to, well, what is the thing we're doing? We're doing this for what reason? To preserve this, United States or Western civilization. Okay, that's what we're saving, and this is what we're doing. Although this saves that.
Yeah.
There has to be the final thing to where you go, if the thing you're doing is the destruction of the innocence of children, it doesn't matter what you're preserving, because by definition, the thing you are preserving is a system that is okay with the perversion and destruction of innocence. So you are using evil to save an evil system. It is much better to deny the evil and go out fighting, and if you die, you die. But you'd rather look at it and go, yeah, the country went under. The only way it could have survived is if we did human trafficking. Is that a country worth saving? I would imagine probably not. And people won't like this. But like, well, it's easy to say that we're not going to do that. But I mean, true, like, where is the line? Because if you're not okay with that line, then the entire thing deserves to collapse. There's just, and I feel like that can't be like a radical. It's not like I'm up here going, if anyone ever smokes a joint, they get life in prison. I get where you're like, hey, shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah.
but there has to be a line of human trafficking, getting raped every day, and they end their lives with suicide, drug overdose, or their literal organs are harvested. I mean, could there be a more clear cut, like, this is good and that's bad? Like, I get wars are gray areas. Why are we there? Are we occupying? What about the resources? Is there a more simple, like, there's the net. If the ball goes in the net, you get 3 points, and if it misses, you don't. There's no gray area in basketball. You go, did you get more points or not? This is something where it's like, in the afterlife, God's looking at you going, are you retarded? Like, I know you're not bright, but I mean, kids trafficked, raped, organs, not doing that.
You
And
know,
Joey,
you know what happens to child traffickers in the Middle East?
What, they become king? I don't know. Like, you get invited to the
All right,
House of
well,
Saud?
let me rephrase the question. Like
You get an
in Saudi
apartment in the
Arabia,
Burj Khalifa? I don't know.
no, like let's say Saudi Arabia, you're a child trafficker and you get caught. Do you know what happens to them?
What?
Execution.
Oh, well, then shout out Saudi Arabia.
I think
We can agree on a common ground.
yeah. I mean, they're fucked up too, right? But in their own way, they're fucked up. But I
Okay.
agree with that. I think this it wouldn't be 100% solution, but it would cut down a lot on child trafficking.
I'm
Is if
pretty
you
close
start
to 100. I think pretty close to
if you
100%.
start
I
executing
think we
child
could,
trafficking,
yeah.
if you hand out death sentences. Right now, the governor in Texas, he's the harshest right now on child traffickers. They get either life or they get the what do you call it? fucking thing right
Legal
now.
injection.
Yeah. If other states started doing that shit, it would really cut down on it. But guess what? We got all these liberals and Democrats that are fine with pedophiles. Don't even get me started on that, man.
Uh, uh,
They think it's fine. There's people out there that think that's fine, by the way.
Yeah, we know that. I mean, what do they call it now? They came up with some term. I forget the acronym is, but basically adults that attracted.
minor attracted
Yeah,
persons, men.
yeah,
There you go. There it is, man. What kind of, that's just some sick bullshit right there, just to justify their their perversions. So you said a lot of kids get. How does that happen? How do kids get sent from, say, the United States abroad, and nobody picks that up? I mean, how they doing that? I mean, how they not check? I mean, passports, identification. I mean, you just don't
bro.
get on an airplane.
You, TSA sucks, right, Dale?
Well, I kind of know that too, but yeah,
Yeah,
and a
and
lot of
that's a
ways.
problem. That's a huge problem. Remember how I said that the trafficking happens a lot? One of the places I mentioned was airports.
Yeah,
TSA's training is shit. Though maybe when we used to transport the kids, they didn't even used to ask. You'd have like a Mexican agent with a black kid, and TSA wouldn't even question it. We had documents because their job is, hey, well, this kid doesn't match this person, and they look completely different, and this person's from this country, and that person's from, and they never, out of like 100 times, maybe one time someone would question it. What does that tell you about all the people trafficking kids? No one's asking any questions, bro.
The-
They don't. Airports are so busy, they don't have time to sit there. Well, is he your mom or is he your dad? Is he your? They don't have time. They don't question it.
I'll play devil's advocate. The TSA sucks, but that's also now. Granted, they weren't around on 9/11. They subsequently, but still, by the time something's getting through TSA, I don't think it is a unreasonable statement to say the intelligence agencies failed. I know that they're not omnipotent. I get that. No, it's not the movies. They don't see everything happening everywhere. In terms of, it's like what I think Snowden said in his book. He's like, they don't give a what porn you're watching. They're focused on something else. The something else, though, are giant off the books sources of money funding cartels or groups or organizations or cells. By the time the trafficking is occurring, I'm much more willing to say the TSA guy barely making 40K a year.
Yeah.
He's working at Chicago O'Hare. He's seeing literally 90,000 people a day. I'm a little more willing to go. Maybe he didn't look twice at that, versus just the most root. It's not. It's not like I'm saying how come the CIA didn't find that a single atom of uranium. It's like, well, I mean, this is a pretty big in your face.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I'm not going to throw that on the TSA. I'm going to look at, I don't know, the like 21 or 22 intelligence agencies we have, and go. And then it comes down to, do they suck? No, they don't. They're allowing this to happen. It's complicity. They've allowed this thing to happen.
I could tell you as a former intelligence officer that Mount. So this was under Biden, right? I'd interview a trafficker, and there's a reason I left ICE. I'd interview a trafficker, and they would post bail. So ICE has its own bail, which is different than what regular law enforcement does, where you have to come back and all that shit. It'll be like 50,000, 100,000. ICE collects it. The guy's got no ankle monitor. And I'm telling you, this guy admitted to me he's a child trafficker. I'm just giving you an example, right? ICE releases him the next day. He posts his bail. What do you think? Where do you think Buddy's at? He's still in the US, probably still trafficking. And this is not just one case. We're talking about hundreds, right? Of course they're complicit. When I'm telling my supervisor, this guy just admitted to me he's been trafficking kids, and they're like, all right, well, we'll look into it. And then he gets released 2 days later.
What's interesting is, look, man, I'm happy we've got Donald Trump as the president, but here's what I don't quite understand. And again, this is why maybe we should draw more attention to this. And this is kind of why I wanted Joey on here was, so And Joe, you and me have been in San Francisco. We seen the
Yeah.
fentanyl problem, right? That's the craziest shit ever, man. Down on Fourth and Market Street, you see them goddamn fentanyl zombies everywhere. They're standing there catatonic, bent over the waist, snot dripping out of their nose,
Yeah.
and that blue for 30 minutes like they're a goddamn some kind of fucking concrete growing mushroom plant. Anyways, we see what that can do, man. And so the rage right now is, we got to stop all these, people coming across the border because of the fentanyl. 100,000 people are dying from fentanyl every year. And I'm kind of like what you said, Tommy. You know what? If you're a idiot and you want to take fentanyl, go f yourself. Have all the fentanyl, kill yourself. I don't give a
Go
shit.
wild.
But you know what? Why don't we say let's stop the cartels because of what they're doing to our children and other people's children, not just American children, but other people's children? And why don't we go after these families in America that are harboring
Yeah.
children, that are
Yeah.
complicit in this? And I also like the idea of, you know what? You get caught trafficking children, if you're involved, you're dead too. You get to all die, man. There's no
100% across the
that,
board.
yeah, you don't get a pass. I don't give a how broke you are. You don't get a pass on that. You don't get to traffic children for money because you don't make enough goddamn money. That's how I look at it. So, why is that not the emphasis? I think any civilized, American would be more willing to support. I mean, I think we're willing to support it anyways with the fentanyl, but this would really motivate more people to go, you know what? We need to stop this bullshit. I personally don't give a fuck if you want to kill yourself with fentanyl, although fentanyl is a problem for everybody. It's very lethal. I mean, it's bad, no doubt about it, but I have less sympathy for drug users who kill themselves or hurt themselves. I don't care if you're a recreational user and you died, oh well, should have did it. But the kids, like you guys said earlier, man, these little kids don't know what the fuck is going on, 2-year-old kids, 3-year-old kids, 4-year, they're innocent, man. They have no clue what's going on and why they were snatched from their parents. Could you imagine what's going through their mind? Where the f- am I? Where am I going? And you remember what was the movie, man, that came out a couple years ago that it talked about it. That was all, and basically you had movie theaters trying to not show the movie, and then
Yeah.
then they cut the sound. Oh, we have a sound problem. Sorry, you can't hear
Yes.
it. Ish.
Sound of
Uh,
Silence.
so there you go.
Sound
Yeah,
of
Yeah, I
Freedom.
remember, or Sound of, or whatever. But yeah, no, they were having all
Yeah.
these problems,
Tim Ballard.
and it was
think
like,
of, think about that, man. Think about that. These are Americans that own these theaters. These are well, I just misspoke. They're not Americans. At best, they're pseudo Americans. Okay,
Yeah.
and they're not humans. They're animals, but they're actually trying to. They were actually trying to keep people from watching the movie, play it down, like, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, sorry, the sound doesn't work. Man, those cocksuckers should be brought to the death chambers too, man. You're complicit, man. That's one thing you said earlier, Tommy. That's the line, man. That no human being, our children are the future. That's our purpose in life, man, to procreate and protect, the next generation so that we as a humans, as species, whatever you want to call it, can continue to live on. And when we can't even protect our own children from each other, and we're willing to let this shit happen to them, what does that say about humanity? Now, um, another point I wanted to bring up, this is not just an American problem. I can tell you from personal experience, this is a global problem. I read a while back, man, something over like 1 million kids a year are trafficked around the
Yeah.
world, coming up missing
That's
everywhere, right? Where are these kids going? Well, you mentioned, I won't mention where I'm at and all those types of things right now, but I have seen pictures of, little 2-year-old kids, 1-year-old kids, literally gutted open, splayed open, rib cages open, missing organs, laying out in the jungle where where basically the organs were harvested. What kind of a sick human being does that for money? Well, um, I got a personal story, and I'm going to kind of careful how I share this, but it does kind of impact at home with me as well. And and this kind of we're not talking about child trafficking, just human trafficking. Is a big deal. It's not when I say human trafficking, I'm talking about children and women and
mm-hmm.
young girls, right? that's a huge business, man. And I know in the part of the world I'm at, and I'm again, I don't want to get kicked out of the country or anything for piss somebody off, but you
Dale's
know,
in Paris, France, for
yeah,
the
yeah, there you
record.
go. There's a lot of trafficking going on in this part of the world, especially not just
Yeah.
kids, but women. My wife, she actually found herself being trafficked at a very young age, at 18. She thought she was getting a job, and she was going to go work, in a foreign country as a maid. They have services where you actually go through you go do the application, then they give you some training, they get you prepared, and then they ship you abroad with your passport stuff. You go to a family and you work for them, right? And it's really a form of slavery when you actually know the details. And like for example, you go anywhere, you go to the Middle East, right? What do you have there? Nothing but TCNs, foreign nationals, Filipinos, Malaysians, you name it. There are all these young women working as maids, right? And they're not all just being used as maids. They're being abused. There's all kinds of shit going on there. Um, and so it is a big business, but these women have very little, you know, uh, imagine you're a girl that has to travel abroad to make a living to feed your family back in your home, and if you're lucky, you make 250, $300 a month, right? And you're almost a slave. You're not, you can't sit down during the day when the family's at home. You have to stand on your feet. You got to serve everybody. You don't get any time off. You get a half a day off, maybe on Sunday if you're lucky to go out and go buy some toiletries or whatever you need. You can't call home except on certain times. I mean, this is worse than being like in the goddamn military, man. I know these stories personally. And not because I was involved in it, but because, for example, my wife is a great example of it. She's told me all the stories, but she got caught up. She went abroad, and again, I won't mention the country again, but she went to another country, and she went to what basically amounted to it was a compound, but it was like a halfway house where all these girls were going, and then they were going to get farmed out to the clients that were going to hire them to be a maid for a couple of years, right? And it could be anywhere. They could go Pakistan, India, the Middle East, China, you name the places, Hong Kong, Taiwan, wherever. And so, as she described it to me, she went to this compound. There was about 100 girls in there. She was actually the youngest and the smallest at 18. And she thought, well, any day now I'm going to get orders to go to wherever and get to go work for somebody, make $300 a month so I can send it home to my family. And she told me she was there for 6 months, and every now and then, as the girls would disappear, she didn't get to cycle out yet. 'Cause I guess nobody wanted her, but then the guys that were controlling the girls couldn't leave. They were in a walled-in compound, and the guys that were running they were Bangladeshi, all right, and that's what Bangladeshi basically, and some Pakistanis, some Indians from that region. And these guys were running the compound. They would take some of the girls out and they say, "Hey, you got to come over and clean my house for me." They'd come clean their house, and then they'd have sex with them, and then going back into the farm with the rest of the girls. And then it was apparent eventually that this is not we're not going to get hired out. They're actually getting sold off to be slaves, sex slaves. And my wife actually escaped because she was the smallest one. She could actually fit through some bars. They lowered out the window, and she ran off, and she ended up meeting a Chinese family, and she told the story. She's lucky she didn't get raped, and they didn't rape her. They drove her into town the next morning, a couple hours. She told the police, and the police, everybody showed up. They raided the compound. It was completely empty. All the girls, everybody was gone. So she had a near miss. She was one of the lucky ones, but who knows what happened to all these other girls? And this is pretty common. It's very common. So a lot of these girls that are look, thinking they're going to go work abroad and make some money and take care of the family at home. They never go work, not in that sense. They're going to go if they're going to get sexually exploited, probably killed, and enslaved or whatever terrible things you could probably think of. So it's not just a U.S. problem; it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
And and at the end of the day, man, it comes back to supply and demand. And unfortunately, I mean, how can you be that? let's just assume that most of the reasons these things are happening is people are a bunch of sexual deviants, and they're sick, and you can't be human if you're going to do that to other people. We're a world full of some very evil
Yeah.
people. Tarek, Joe,
I
you
don't,
know
yeah.
that.
I don't need to
We,
understand why they do it. I don't need to know why. I don't
there's
care if
so
they were
many.
abused. I don't. To me, you did it.
Yeah, there's got to be consequences, but more people just got to have a heart and get involved, man. And we got to have more awareness. And I just don't think people really understand how big this are. Joe, you said it, man. I didn't realize it was the number one. It was the number one commodity for cartels now. It's not drugs, it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
kids. Holy shit.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
why are we not talking about that publicly? Why don't Trump just come out and go, hey, man, here's the statistics. This is why we need to do this. This really is a war, and we need to, and the Mexican president, we're coming in your country and kick their ass, and you can either help us or get the out of the way. But it's got to stop. If you're not going to help us, then we're going to come and do it. It's time, man. There's nothing more precious than kids. There's nothing more precious, and for us to just kind of take just kind of whatever, and just mind my business, do my job, let somebody else handle this. I don't want to get involved. You're a piece of shit if that's what you say. You don't want to get involved. You're a piece of shit. You don't know better than these traffickers. That's how I look at it. Like you, Tommy, I'm great, man. You're garbage if you're not willing to get involved, you're not willing to be interested in, you're not willing to speak out, you're not willing to do something to help. That's why I'm here, because I know this, and I thought, man, Joey would be a great guy to have on here, not just because of the podcast, but I'm hoping, man, this can just keep going and going and going, and we can bring more attention to this thing and get some momentum going here and stop the bullshit, save some kids, man, you
It's
know.
and it's like that's something where the previous, thing I discussed about, civilian casualties in war. That's something where if they find the cartels or whatever, let's say they're all in, where city A. That's something where if Trump came out and was like, so this morning, if 25 B-52s flattened that city, and they when 10,000 civvies died, but we think we just cut off human trafficking by about 91% globally. That's something where I would go, war is hell, but I understand it. And not only that, it's like, let's be a little more like, realpolitik too, and be like, yeah, I get the, it's not a Boy Scout world, or let's make crime illegal. Like, no, I'm not even, hey, military industrial complex, y'all can get your grift. We're going to need tanks to roll in. You can get your money. Raytheon, like, you're going to make some money off this. Like, I'm not even trying to say, like, it's all got to be perfect. Like, yeah, stop fighting Ukraine, but hey, we're going to need HIMARS. Like, pay everyone off, let them get their grift. Because to me, I would go, that is a less evil grift than the human trafficking grift. Like, make it work. And that's the thing. It's like, if you don't do that, again, there is no logical value. It's not like an opinion. It rationally is not a valuable nation to save if that nation enables this to happen through complicity or ignorance. It is not worth saving. If you go, we're going to nuke Hiroshima, a lot of civilians are going to die, but it's going to end the war in Japan, and it's going to end the war in the U.S. and Europe. You go, that sucks that a lot of people are going to die, but if that brings about peace globally, yeah, I think so. And what is peace? A home where you can have a wife and kids, and they go to school, and you work for a better future. If the thing that you're doing is enabling children to be abused, you are a cancer cell. You are incorrectly replicating. It's not worth. And you know what you do when the cancer cells start? You give it chemo and you kill it all. And I rationally can't look at it any other way and go, it does not deserve. Not only does it not deserve to survive, it deserves to be destroyed. I just, and again, you like that's a radical thing. Like everything else, I'm much more lenient on. It's like, well, how come we're not going to Africa? We can't be everywhere in the world, and I get it, And well, what about Russia and Ukraine? I'm like, yeah, world, but hey, those are power vacuums in different parts. There's so many things where I'm willing to be like, no, it's okay. You can't be worried about every conflict in the world. I'm not even trying to take some like Captain America, like everything must be good. Now I get that most of the world, as we've all said, like, yeah, I'm kind of, if you're gonna do fentanyl, like, God bless, but at the same time, you're an adult, go for it. Like, I'm willing to say, like, you can go do fentanyl and kill yourself. Like, I'm being very reasonable. You just can't do this. Well, this guy is, he's selling weed, he's dealing heroin. All right, okay, whatever. No kids. Like, they're selling long range missiles to the Houthis. Okay, I'm not for it, but no kids. And it's that if you look at Saudi Arabia and go, I really respect their stance on child traffickers. And not only that, you look at it and go, but everything else in their society is so evil. Is it? If everything else they do, horrible women's rights, and it's a theocratic dictatorship, but they protect children, I don't know if I can sit here and go, it's a bad thing. America has freedom. Freedom to do what? To pay taxes in a huge economy that funds a military-industrial intelligence community that enables the trafficking of children.
Dude, I'll say this. I love the U.S. and I'll always be a patriot. After living here in Australia now for the past month, I told my fiance, if we have a kid, I don't want the kid being born, man.
Yeah, that's
Here what
so
happens
fun.
to child traffickers? Like, let's say a child trafficker, they hand out harsh sentences in Australia, by the way. You can look up the laws. Anything that has to do with kids, pedophiles, child traffickers, you're looking at 20 to life in prison, which I salute them for. They're very strict and disciplined here in Australia. Even for speeding, you speed like multiple times, they take your license. I love that shit, dude.
That's awesome.
You have to be like that. You know why? Because humans are animals, bro. And
Yes.
unfortunately, do not learn unless you discipline them. And that's just the way it is, bro. It really is. And I like it here, man, because it's stress free. Yeah, we can't carry firearms or whatever, but you don't need to carry firearms because if a bad guy's caught with a firearm, he's looking at life in prison here in Australia, dude. And sometimes you got to hand out harsh punishments all across the board because, like I said, humans are animals, and the only way we learn is through punishment. We got to go back to the caveman mentality. And I've seen the difference between living here and there. Like, even here, my buddy was telling me, he's an ADF buddy of mine that I met through Dale. He was saying, like, if there's a pedophile that gets out of prison, right, and he's in a neighborhood living, right? If the people in the neighborhood find out that he's living there, bro, the whole neighborhood comes together. This is here in Australia, and it's very common. And they beat his ass.
Good. They should kill him. Yes.
That doesn't happen in the US. We got them all over, bro. Like, I live in Austin. Austin is very liberal and very friendly to pedophiles. Like, when I have this app called the Citizen app, it tells me where all the pedophiles are staying. You go on Austin, you open that app, bro, they're scattered all over the goddamn city, and people are sitting and having coffee with them, and we feel for you. We know you're attracted to kids, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Blah. Yeah, dude, come to Australia and tell one of these bogans that you like a kid. See what fucking happens to you. They're gonna stomp your ass, bro. We gotta go back to how we used to be. All this progressive bullshit has ruined the country. It really has.
Yeah.
We need to go back to how it used to be.
If it's not too late. The thing is that
It's not. I still think it can. Look at 1925 Berlin. They're not only cross-dressing and shit. They used to put up flyers in Berlin and it said, "Berlin, take a breath, your dance partner's death." Because there was a fad where people would wake up and put ether in their coffee. Which is like funny if you're like at a music festival and you're 21. And they snap back. They snap back to the Nazis. I don't think the Nazis put up with pedophiles. I'm not co-signing the Nazis, but the same way you go, Saudi Arabia's backwards. I'm like, if they defend, it's not. So let's remove the morals. Let's remove the ethics. Let's remove the glory of God or the fear of Satan. Let's remove all of that and just look at it. What I have a degree in biology, Darwinianly, a species survives if it can reproduce. That's why sex above all else is the greatest pleasure, because your DNA wants to replicate and mix with other DNA and make more diverse organisms.
Okay.
Remove the cross, remove morals, ethics, everything. If you cannot successfully reproduce and provide nutrients and protection, whether it's a bunch of little turtles or it's mosquitoes or it's kittens or whatever, and protect your offspring, in a Darwinian sense. No religion, no moral, no international law, no nothing. If that one reproduces more, you go, that's the better fungus. That's the one that reproduces more. That one's not that good because it doesn't reproduce a lot. Darwinianly. So even if you go, well, I'm an atheist, I don't want to hear y'all's approach on it. Sure, if you're a science, look at it this way. You are not protecting your offspring. The other things, Saudi Arabia, are protecting their offsprings. So if you look at the Middle East and go, well, it's been a theocratic shithole for 5,000 years. Well, it's kind of working because they take care of their kids and they kill people that fuck the kids. Do they let the women drive? No, and ideally they would. But you know what, man? Like, this is how bad it is. If you're making that negotiating point and be like, they don't fuck the kids. I don't care what the GDP is in the United States. You guys are for the kids. And over there, they don't have plumbing, but you know what they do? They chop off pedophiles' heads in the town square. Maybe my life ends and I'm like 300 pounds in a huge robe with a giant beard, and I'm just like, I become like a blind sheik. That maybe is how my podcast ends. Is me in Saudi Arabia. And if you ask me, the CIA is looking at me on some infrared screen and they're like, we're going to hit him with a Hellfire missile. And they go, why did he do that? He grew up in the United States, white guy, blue eyes. What happened? He was just really sick of the kids. And they'd be like, that guy has a line. He has a moral line. That's where this ends. So in sense of Darwinian, remove every emotion, remove everything else. If you were to just look at different organisms in different petri dishes, you'd go, that one eats its own kids. Yeah, that one's not going to survive. That's simple. It's that simple. So whether you're taking it from a theocratic point of view, God and morals and ethics, or whether you're looking at it purely from the physics and mathematical certainties of biological replication. So whether you're an atheist or whether you're a devout Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever, they are both the same outcome. You can't use one for shelter. They both look at going, you can't harm the kids. There's no wiggle room. None. Zero. So this isn't, oh, well, you believe in God. This has nothing to do with it. I'm coming at it from someone with a biology degree. It doesn't work. You can't do it. There is no argument other than you're defective. And from the philosophical religious standpoint, you go, you're full of sin. From a biological standpoint, you go, that's a f***ed up cell. We need to get rid of it. There's nothing. If you're doing it, you're religiously or biologically. And if you're okay with it, you're religiously or biologically. There's no argument. I probably should have been a lawyer instead of doing this podcast. I don't know where I was going with that. There wasn't really a question in there. Sorry.
You have one of my rants, man.
Yeah, I know. I invoke the power of Dale.
Shit right in the beginning of the show,
Yeah, Dale rubs off on me. I start getting red in the face and screaming like a 10 preacher. Yeah.
Breaking shit. Oh man, this was good, man.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, man. I actually learned a lot, Joey. I know you got a lot of other stories. I'd love to have you on with him again
Absolutely.
another time.
Yeah, we'll do another one.
I've heard I heard some of the other stuff before, about, down in Mexico and, getting approached by, the bad guys in a bar and,
Yeah.
you live an interesting life, man. You've done some cool things and, but you've traveled in the, on the black side, the dark side of fucking, as I do in a way too. I got dark shit I have to deal with here, but you do something that's, closer to home and, I don't know, man. I think Tom, you got to have him on, man.
I'd
More time.
Joe, I'd love to have you on, and I don't know if it'd be helpful. I'd put you in touch with Baz. I don't know if talking to him. He runs ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. They actually go and rescue kids.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I can put you in touch with all of them. Is there any website or links or anything? Can you text them to me? I'll put them in the description for people listening, or they can just go follow you on Instagram, just something.
Yeah, I'm the most active on IG on
Okay.
Instagram. Joey.nobody.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link.
But
Sure.
no, I'd love to. Let's definitely schedule another one. I'd love to have you back on, both of you back on. We can talk about this. But I mean, I don't know, and it might be. It's like, so what's the point of this discussion then? We're all just patting each other on the back, saying, "I agree, this is bad."
Hundreds, man.
No, 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 well, no, no. What I'm saying is, well, one, it's people might not know these things, so it's good to learn.
Yeah,
I think it is also good though when you hear other people kind of get emotional about it. It allows you to go, man, I don't like that chick. She's a crazy blue-haired liberal, but she does say all pedophiles should be in a mass grave. You start to go, not only are you not alone, it actually starts to make you look at people and go, maybe we're not that different. Maybe, okay, I mean, maybe she's a hippie and, but if we both agree, like, they should be against the wall, that allows you to actually, I think, connect more with your neighbor and also feel less alienated. And if that hits a critical mass, you might actually have change. So I don't think it's all for naught.
I
And I think
agree. I
it's,
agree with
yeah,
that statement, Tommy.
yeah,
I do. I
the,
always preach unity. I do. I preach that.
yeah,
The reason it occurs more too is because we're so divided in the U.S.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, in Australia, like I love about it here. Like I don't want to keep bragging about Australia. It doesn't matter what race or color or wherever the fuck they're from, right? They all come together when there's a problem.
And they're really, if there really should be at least that unified. You can vote more or less on taxes, or is pot legal, or should we have this diet? I get, and that's fine. You liberal, conservative, that's all well and good. I mean, it really should be. They all agree, like, hey, I love my child more than anything else. Like,
Yeah,
and if that can happen, then I would say it is a country worth saving, and it might just be, it might just be that we're in a, hopefully we look back one day and 50 years ago, yeah, America kind of hit that breaking point, and then that was the saving grace, and I really think it can be, um, because if not, it won't survive, and not just morally and ethically, it biologically won't survive. If you're destroying your offspring, you're the organism ends. It's that simple. So, um, but
a
Joey, dude,
more
yeah,
optimistic outlook, I would say, my personal view, that haven't done all that stuff, that the U.S. is doing now better than it has done the last 10 years,
yeah,
in my opinion. Trump is doing better than his first election.
yeah, no,
He's going hardcore on criminals. He's going hardcore on child traffickers. He's saying, well, you got to get out of Ukraine and all that bullshit. Wants to end the Israel plus Palestine bullshit. There's more happening now, and it's been like time for that. And I think the next coming years, life in the U.S. will be better.
I
That's
believe
what I
so.
think.
I believe so, and it really is, man. Like, it's a reasonable unifying thing. To be like,
Yeah, it
we
is.
can hate each other's guts on every other, the whole, this many genders, or don't push religion down. You can argue about that forever. I mean, what a much better place, what a much less fervor and hatred we would have for each other if I'd be like, yeah, no, she's got nose piercings and she identifies as a frog, but I saw her retweet a live leak video of a pedophile getting decapitated, and I respect that. Like, that can be the middle ground, and if it can't be, it's not worth saving. And this ends with me and Cutter dressed as a sheik, and then yeah, yeah. So, um, but I will text both of you. Spotify will be up today. Rumble will be up tomorrow or Tuesday, but Spotify will be up today. I'll text to both of you guys. I know it's late as fuck
Sweet.
y'all's time, so I appreciate your
Hey,
patience. Joey, thank you for coming on here and talking
Yes,
about it. You're
sir.
doing the Lord's work, and I'm more than
Thank you,
happy.
Dale, for
Yeah,
connecting
absolutely.
us,
Yeah, hell
Tommy.
yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Dale.
you.
And
no,
yeah, dude, the show is yours. It's like I said, it's pretty much just the human trafficking thing where I give people carte blanche. Come on my show as frequently as you want. If I can help in 1% of 1%, then I'll know I did. I'll know I did
Yeah,
good. So,
yeah.
um, but gentlemen, thank you both so much for your time. Dale, Joey,
no.
till next time, guys. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir.